Hey, welcome back to True-Moto-Resto. And today's video, we're going to get started on round 2 of fixing the CBX750. That one. Let's try again. All right, so we're going to give this CBX750. This is a 1982, I think, if I remember correctly. And those of you that watched the previous playlist and all the restoration videos for this, will remember. And if you haven't seen those other ones, I will put the link to the playlist in the description. And so basically what we did last winter was strip the entire bike, everything right down to the bare frame. The frame was painted. All the body work was repainted, new seat cover, new bearings, kind of went through everything. And in the process, the bike had never run before since I owned it. Because when I got it, it wouldn't start because the starter clutch was gone. So the starter would engage, but the starter clutch would spin in both directions. It would not grab, so therefore it would not crank and it would not fire and start. So, engine came apart from the perspective of, I just split the cases. I didn't touch the top end at all. Split the cases in half. I put in a new starter clutch, and my basic examination of the starter chain and the starter tensioner, etc., seemed to be okay. And I guess the key word there is seemed to be okay. And despite being given great advice by some folks who were watching the videos, I elected to not change that chain, and I elected to not change that starter chain tensioner. And unfortunately, when I put the engine back together, it fired up immediately, but it was making some chain noises in there. So I can only assume that the starter chain tensioner is bad. That basically means that I have to pull the engine out, split the cases again, and fix it. So what I actually have for this is I have a new starter chain, I have a new starter chain tensioner, I have a new cam chain, and I have new cam chain tensioner components as well. So I figured if I'm taking it apart, and I've got continuous chains, they're not ones with links that I have to press together, because I just I don't know, that just seems too risky to me. If I don't, since I'm not experienced at re-riveting chains, that just seems a prime place for failure down the road. So I had them provided to me already continuously done. So that means I have to pull the crank out in order to get both of those chains on there. The cams will have to come out. Crank will have to be unbolted. So what's going to make this a little trickier is putting the engine back in. If you saw the other video, you'll know that on these bikes, the frame is a continuous frame. There is no removable frame section. So there are basically two ways to get the engine in and out of a bike like this, which is you either have to kind of lift it out carefully and extract it from the side, and these things weigh a ton, or you have to lay the bike on its side and lift the bike off the engine that way. So what I did is a combination of those things. To get the engine out, I actually inserted I have a crane, an engine hoist, took the carburetors off and all the kind of gubbins in there, slid the arm of the crane right behind that cylinder, strapped it, and then I just lifted it straight out. All right, so first step is done, which is basically removal of the bodywork, everything with the exception of the tail. That doesn't really need to come off. So that's all really straightforward stuff. I didn't bother filming that because you probably saw it in the first video, and it's pretty simple. All right, so I've dropped the pipes, and it's Yeah, it's a bit of a struggle to get all these things are very tight fit. So. There's about a total of maybe 5 minutes run time on this engine oil. Alright, carburetors are out. Bit of a wrestling match getting the airbox to carb boots in and out. They're a huge pain. But anyway, those are out. I've taken the manifolds off, and now I'm going to take out the starter, and then I'll start taking off things like these oil pipes. Okay, on this side, I pulled off the clutch slave, and I've also taken off the primary drive cover and the sprocket. Unbolting the oil lines here. I've removed the bolts, the banjo bolts, and there are bracket bolts here for this top oil line. And this top one, it's a bit of a trick to get it out. It kind of goes, it wraps around the alternator here, so I'm recording this basically for the purposes of remembering how this thing goes back in. I'm going to take this oil cap out. This way. So to get it back in, go in this way, and then tilt it down. Alright, the clutch is out, and basically what I've done is I've just laid that out on the bench in the order that it came off the bike. So on this side, I'll have to pull this gear off. It just slides right off. I'll have to lock this gear against the case to remove that bolt. That's one that drives the oil pump. And then I gotta take this side cover off as well, this crankshaft end cover. And then that'll take care of this side. Still the output shaft cover to take off on the other side. Cam cover to take off, and the oil pan to take off, and all the oil pickup tubes have to come out. Alright, so oil pan is off, and next thing I got to do is basically remove all of those oil pipes. I just make note of the order that they come off. I know a lot of folks just use the gasket only and don't use any sealant. I'm not one of those folks. I probably should be, but it would just annoy me to no end if it leaked after and I had to put a new gasket on and seal it up again. So anyway, that's off. And just to be clear, you cannot get this engine in a CBX750 out of the frame unless you take the oil pan off and you take all of those oil pipes out first. So all the pickup strainer has to come out and everything, because there just is not enough clearance. So yeah, it's a tight squeeze, and the reason there is no removable frame section in this bike is oil runs through the frame here. So this is the section of the frame where the oil, I can't say off the top of my head if that's the return line or the outbound line, but either way, this frame, the oil basically is traveling from here, which is attached to the oil pan on this side. My guess is this the outbound line comes up here into the frame. It's pumped up the frame, and then it goes from here through another oil line into that oil cooler right here. From that oil cooler back down the other side of the frame, and then into the crankcase. So that's why there is no removable frame section on the bike. I guess. I mean, in my mind, as a Honda engineer, what I think they could have done quite easily is had a removable frame section bolted together here and here, and you could still use the frame to return the oil, because you know the if the oil is entering or leaving here and you have it bolting up here, you're not interfering with the oil flow. So yeah, it's a perplexing design, to be honest. I would have put a removable frame section in, but I'm not a Honda engineer or an engineer of any sort. But there you go. That's why the oil pan has to come off right now. Okay, so just to kind of satisfy my paranoia and curiosity, through this hole, the starter is where the starter goes. You can actually touch the starter chain. And until a second ago, that thing was kind of flopping around. I had my flashlight out, and that chain was kind of quite floppy inside there. And there is, you can't really see it very well, but above the chain there's a tensioner. It's like a wear, like a plastic wear bar type of slider tensioner, and that was loose. And I touched it with a screwdriver and it popped down, and now the chain has tightened up again. So it's definitely a problem with the tensioner. So I think I'm just going to continue going, because if it did come loose and now it's tightened up again, then likely it'll go loose again. From what I understand, there's a problem with the tensioners cracking, and they don't keep tension on the chain. So that's likely what the problem is. So the good news is I was right in the diagnosis. It was definitely starter chain noise. So we'll see what I find when I get in there. It is entirely possible that the tensioner is fine and I just didn't preload it properly when I put it back together, but I'm not going to know that until I get in there. The other thing that could have happened, I guess, is the one with the tensioner, or the tensioner could have failed, which is quite common. And if that's caused the chain to bang and to slap around, you know, maybe it damaged that particular slipper. There was quite a bit of, or I say quite a bit, there was some black specks of plastic on the oil pickup screen. I'm not sure if you noticed that when I was shooting the video of that, but I'm suspecting that is plastic off the slippers. So that's definitely the issue. Now I just got to make sure that I fix it properly. All right, so the next job I'm doing here is just you know, taking off the output shaft cover. This is a 10 mil here that I've just taken out. There's a bunch of, I think there's 3 12 millimeters, and then there's 3 Allens that hold this on. This chain protector up here can stay on. There's another Allen up here. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. There's another bolt up here that has I think it's an 8 millimeter with a copper crush washer on it. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff here. This has to come off. There's a couple of 8 millimeter bolts there. And I recall last time, for whatever reason, the output shaft cover was a huge pain in the backside to get it to come loose. So it won't be any different this time, I'm sure. All the bolts that I'm taking out are going into a template, so I know exactly where they go back. Some people are really good at this, knowing that, hey, you know, there's only so many places these bolts can go, but for the time it takes just to draw a little template and stick everything in, why wouldn't you? At least I do it. I'm just not smart enough to figure out where they go back, I guess. Okay, output shaft cover is off. Only a couple of things I would note here. One would be, it is kind of a bit of a pain to get it off. So you can, I tapped on the back side of the case in this area and up in the top corner as well to kind of start to move it off. But it's helpful if you pop a screwdriver down in here just to gently pry, because otherwise it'll want to get kind of hung up and bound, because it kind of tends to twist off this way, and you need to basically get it all straight. So screwdriver down there, gentle twist as I tapped it from the back. And then just to note, that oil nozzle there has a rubber or Viton O-ring on it. You want to make sure that you don't lose that, and also preferably replace it at the same time that you put a new gasket on that as well. Okay, the cam cover's off. Now, the last time I did this, as far as engine disassembly goes, before the engine came out of the frame, this is as far as I went. And also, I never took anything apart at the top end of this when I was dealing with the starter clutch issue. This time, I have to make a decision. It really shouldn't be a decision, to be honest. It should be just get on with it and take it apart. But like many things that I've never done before, I don't know about you, but I get a little intimidated when I pull a cam cover off and I look at all this and I go, geez, I got to take all that apart. And I mean, it really shouldn't be any different than anything else I've ever done. You take it apart, you document it, you put it back together in the reverse order, you use your torque wrench, blah blah blah, and everything is hunky-dory. But it's intimidating, at least to me. So in addition to that starter tensioner issue, and I have all new tensioner hardware to go inside here when I get the cases split, I bought a new starter chain. Not at the time, not knowing 100% whether or not that was a new chain or an old chain. And it turns out it is a new chain, and you can tell by I'll show you here, this is an old chain, this cam chain. This is a DID cam chain, the original Honda cam chain. And you can tell the way I guess they call it lacing, the way that this is assembled. So you've got a double link, it's not double link, it's a double plate here and a double plate here, a double plate in the center, and then two single plates. So that particular link is laced and assembled with these stacked double links that you can see there. They're kind of, there's a double link here, here, and here, and then two single plates on the outside. Now the Tsubaki chains, which I got as replacements for the DID, are not laced like that. Okay, they are all single plates. So it's it's got 5 single plates in one section, like the wide section here, and it's got 4 single plates over here. And so what I have learned from Tony Galea, who provided the new cam chain and the new starter chain for me, is that the Tsubaki chains that I got are superior quality to these DID chains. And so here's the dilemma. In order to change that chain, the starter chain here, the crankshaft has to come completely out, unless you buy a chain that is not continuous, and then you have to rivet it together yourself. And so Tony gave me the option of getting the chains so I could link them myself and peen them over myself, or having them continuous. And I elected to buy the continuous chains because I don't trust my ability to properly peen a cam chain or a starter chain and not worry that it's going to come apart at some point. Don't peen it enough and maybe the pin would come out and you have catastrophe. Peen it too much and then you end up with a link that's too stiff and all of that kind of thing. I imagine it's the same as it is for a rear drive chain. So I got the continuous chain, so he's kind of joined them together, peened it all up and whatnot. but it means if I replace any of the chains, so that starter chain that you see in there, or that cam chain, the crankshaft has to come out. In order to take the crankshaft out, all of this assembly, the camshafts have to basically come out to the point where, or at least, I mean, most of this has to come off. That's the point of it. These sprockets have to come off the cams. You got to pull this cam chain off. In order to get the cam chain off, the camshafts have got to come out. You've got to take off, remove this assembly here, which is the tensioner assembly for the cam chain. So the whole top end of this cam assembly has to come apart in order to change that chain or that chain. And if you're going to change one chain, then obviously you might as well change two. So my options are roll the dice and do nothing with the chains and say, well, that's a new chain in there, and I'm going to gamble that this chain is going to last. Or I bite the bullet and I disassemble the whole thing. And of course, in addition to pulling the whole top end of this apart, I also have to disconnect the piston connecting rods from the crankshaft to be able to get the crankshaft out. So really the only part of this engine that wouldn't be coming apart is taking the cylinder head off the cylinder. That would be the only real thing that I'm not going to do as part and parcel of this. So at this point, I just got to get over my fear of pulling this sucker apart and just get on with it, I guess. It's just intimidating. I mean, it's just intimidating. That's all there is to it. The other interesting fact that you may or may not know is there's no valve shims in here. There's no adjustments to be made. These are all hydraulic tappets on this bike, so there's no adjustments here. On the reassembly, I understand from reading the manual that these like some sort of oil reservoirs on the top. They have to be all kind of pre-filled with oil when it goes back together. So there's the story. Get out of the comfort zone and go into the unknown. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, you don't learn anything unless you give it a shot, right? So that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and tune in to the next episode of this CBX750 revisit on all of my chain rattling issues that are going on. And you'll find out whether I've done the right thing and disassembled this top end of the valve train to take care of all the chains, or whether I've chickened out and taken the easy route. Let's see.